Today I saw Supergirl 2026, just to be specific. Hello, welcome to my Supergirl review, and let's just get right into it. So, just so you know, the synopsis for this um for this movie is Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, joins forces with an unlikely companion on an interstellar journey of vengeance and justice when an unexpected adversary strikes too close to home. So might be going into this a little too early, but it's funny that it says interstellar journey. Now, of course, this is an interstellar journey. It's a cosmic journey, even. Um, but that's a big but. One thing I kind of didn't like with this movie is the repetitious nature of a lot of the setting. A lot of it just felt very samey to me. Like it was either like well, not extremely sci-fi, but like the typical sci-fi you see. The neon lights and slightly high tech, and then it goes kind of primal and desert on other planets. Like like there's almost no life on them except for a bar that uh Kara goes to. So that was like kind of my biggest issue. It felt very barren in certain parts, but otherwise from that, I very much enjoyed this movie. This movie was very entertaining. Um I'm going to talk about it later, but I had some issues, some minor, some um geez, opposite of minor, not so minor, how to say. Um but I'll say, oh yeah, macro. But yeah, it was a well done simple movie. Very to the point, very straightforward. Um Not a lot going on in terms of like world building, but it does do some introductions to characters that I assume are going to be um a lot grander in the this new universe of DC. Like one thing I really liked about Superman was like how they introduce characters, and I think this movie does that well too, like with Lobo, um kind of showing, I'm forgetting right now, even though movie was literally last year, but showing you know the remains or the downfall of Krypton and how that affected Kara. I think stuff like that was very well shown, um, and had that bit of emotion to it. Every actor I loved. Like Jason Momoa as Lobo was a swell treat. I feel like I mean, I saw like some interviews of him like, geeking out that I'm able to play this role, but I really think, he was a great pick. He has the stature, he has the gravitas, he just has that Lobo isms to him that, like, yeah, it's fitting. And I'm not gonna act like I'm like the biggest nerd when it comes to DC. I mean, I kind of used to be. I've read some comics now and then. I've watched the TV shows. I've seen the movies, but I haven't seen every iteration or universe um of these characters. But I do know, a decent amount about Lobo. Like he's typically like a very anti-hero to villain type of character. In this movie, he was like very like chaotic neutral to chaotic good by certain actions that he did. Um and he got it across that, yeah, I'm a bounty hunter. Um it's a little a little exposition heavy, but what says needs to be said, and I always feel like in dialogue sometimes it's good to give exposition, especially if the character is knowledgeable of it, like how Carr was the movie. when Lobo was introduced. She was like, "Yeah, you don't want to mess with that guy. The their antagonist Ruth. He's a bad guy." um, and yeah, he is a pretty bad guy. For the most part, but not like as bad as like the antagonist was. Where well, I'll get into that later. I'm getting ahead of myself. But yeah, Jason Momoa was great. The actor for Ruth, Ava Ridley, she was great as well. Um, she definitely had, she definitely like captured, um, you know, that emotion of wanting revenge for the ones you lost. Um, and her growth throughout the film projected it as well. I don't think there's really any issues with her, um, as well as Millie Alcock. She's Alloc, the stammering there. Cara, she was great, and although there were some moments I feel like I don't know, I just felt like they were too short when it came to their interactions. Like I felt like I was like another issue I had this in terms of like the interstellar type of a journey. It didn't really feel like a journey sometimes. It felt more like um I mean a journey does have stop and goes, but this really felt like it was just three planets and oh, we found him. We found our guy. Like, not saying this movie had to be stretched out to 2 hours or more, but it could have used a little more scenes of just them interacting and developing between each other. Um, and I'm not gonna say it now, but I feel like there's some merit behind why it's like that because of what it's based off of. Even though they cut some stuff away, I noticed, but yeah, it was just a tad too short to me sometimes with their development, but I still feel like it pulled through in the end overall. Um and yeah, like during their adventure, I did love the scenes when they did have interactions and they're bickering. It felt like, two sisters going at each other, two siblings going at each other. And Ruth always I feel like it wasn't every scene, but some scenes, it was so funny how she was introducing her full name, lineage, and her motivation as to why she's going on this journey. I feel like it was funny. Um and there was like a moment that I kind of laughed where Cara was like reciting what she says, like mocking it in like a nonverbal way, like I think that's like, there's moments like that that's very charming. The antagonist Krem, Matthias. I'm not gonna say his last name because his last name is like, bro, I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm just gonna say Matthias S. He was amazing. He was like that hateable type of villain that like he's just a bad guy and you hate him. You hate what he's doing, you hate why he did it, or if there even is a reason why. I do think that like it's a little too simplified, but I think it's fine for a movie at least. It's different between, having I don't want to compare it too much. Let me not get ahead of myself. But I could tell the actor was having a lot of fun and, he was a real threat. Um, he had like these Kryptonian um darts that worked on Kara and also worked on uh crypto that like poisoned him, which was the whole reason why Kara is going on the journey with Ruth in the first place. Otherwise, I feel like she still would have helped, but I feel like that was an extra push to go like, fine, I hope you find this guy that you want revenge on. But also going off of that, in general, the themes of not um letting your grief consume you was very well emphasized, I feel like. And I feel like that's a good part of why the simplicity of certain parts worked well, because the themes kind of carried that with the characters. Um, so yeah, that was one thing that was a big highlight. Um, I loved and I love this too in the comic. I loved Ruth's like aristocratic like dialect. Like you could tell that she grew up not noble because she grew up in like kind of a farm family. Or I guess kind of a they say in the movie her father was uh a weapon forger. Um a blacksmith. That's the word I was looking for. So like, you know, you could tell that like she had a educational upbringing. She's very chatty, she's very passionate, she's very emotional, which is fitting for her character arc because she is going on a revenge journey. So of course she would be passionate and emotional in certain moments. 'Cause she's young, she doesn't really this is her first time experiencing death in this way. So you know, it makes sense compared to Kara who has experienced death with Krypton, but she's still young going through it, but she has her own way of dealing with it when with drinking and throughout the movie she's trying to um kind of accept, you know, where she's at in life and, you know, who's her people. That's like a question for her. Um and yeah, you know, by the end of the film she grows, also Kara, but I'll get into that too later. But it was a good dynamic. I feel like the emotionally guarded and abrasive and cynical Kara was, you know, good for these two characters to, you know, bite off of each other. Um, and, you know, again, she opens up as she grows and starts connecting with Ruth and, you know, letting her know without letting her know that, you know, revenge isn't the end of, you know, your grief. Like, even if you do kill this guy, it's not really going to matter in the end. Something I remember from the comic was geez, now I'm forgetting the word. Um Passion. I think it was like compassion, fury. Geez, I don't know how I just butchered it and I had it in my head. I was rereading some parts of this. Oh, I remember. Life is about compassion, not fury. Um and yeah, like you really can't live your whole life mad. Like you're just gonna end up really just you're gonna live a terrible existence basically. You're not it's not good to be mad. It's not good to coop up negative emotions in life. It's better, you know, not always good to be compassionate to everyone, but it's some merit behind being compassionate and not letting the troubles in your life consume you. Um so yeah, like the story was simple, but the journey there was at least fun. Um Another big negative this movie. Oh my gosh. Some of the I don't know, I got to ask my mom what she thought cuz I saw this movie with her, but some of the music and the action scenes were so unfitting. It was like it was almost jarring like this was the choice for this. Like it would be like a very and it's okay to have like a jazzy slow track sometimes in fight scenes. Sometimes it works. Um but there was like this very slow track that they picked in one of the action scenes and it was just like I get the lyrics fit for what the scene was, but it was a very fast-paced action scene. It wasn't like a slow um you know a slow like agonizing fight between two characters like both are stabbing each other or both for um you know on some rocky stuff punching each other on the final round and both are like bloodied up but they're barely swinging with the adrenaline coursing through their veins. Yeah, it's just like it was very odd. Some of the music choices. The only one I really did like was this bar fight scene. Um, and they play. I forget exactly what the track was. I think it was like No, it wasn't Moon River. It was some upbeat track, um, like poppy jazzy track, and I feel like it fit well. Probably because that's the type of music I personally like. But I feel like when you do an action scene, more often than not, you gotta like have a pretty upbeat um soundtrack behind it. Otherwise, it's gonna be a little odd having, I don't know, like a slow like a slow waltz in a fight scene. Um, like you wouldn't want to see that in a martial arts like Bruce Lee film or something. That'd be weird. But yeah, that was one of the things that kind of irked me a little bit. Um, Also the color and lighting of this movie, at least going off of Superman, it was really, really, and this is another, odd, off-putting thing, but the lighting, like for what is supposed to be like a interstellar journey, there's a lot of dull colors going on in each of these planets. Like they're not very like I can get certain planets being greasy and not exactly friendly planets, but at least have some color. Like it was so gray on certain parts. It was almost remind me of like some Zack Snyder lighting. Like it was very, very weird choices. And there was one scene that like I get it's in space, so it's fine, maybe. But it was like a scene where Kara was flying. It was very hard to see where she was flying through. And yeah, I was like, hey, I don't like how they did that. And I don't like how it works. Like there's a lot, and sometimes it's only for a few seconds, but there's some moments it was just hard to perceive what was happening on screen because the lighting and color ratio just wasn't mixing well. Um so yeah, I do think if if you're going into this movie after watching this non-spoiler part of my review, think of this as almost a Star Wars adventure. Especially like lighting wise, like it's very reminiscent of that. And you know, if you go into it like that, you'll have fun. This movie, it's not. It has heart. It has heart for sure. But if for sure, if we're gonna compare movies, granted different directors, I've heard to mention this before, but like different directors. So like of course the color and lighting is gonna be slightly different. Different, you know, interest or um direction for stuff. So, of course, things are going to be slightly different between two different individuals. So, I can respect that. But, like, for coming from Superman and going also from the comic, I'm just going to say this one thing now. The comic was very colorful. And granted, it's a comic, but you could tell that, like, there's some diversity when it comes to planets, um, characters, and action sequences, um opposed to what this movie did, where it's very one note, um from scene to scene sometimes. So yeah, that's kind of an issue to me. Um and for my rating, non spoilers, I would say this movie is a good like 7 out of 10. um Yeah, like just a solid 10 out of 10. I don't think it can go any higher than that or any lower. Like I thoroughly enjoyed this movie, but I don't know, as much as I love, because Supergirl versus Superman, Supergirl blows it out the water for me. I've always really liked Supergirl's character in almost every iteration I've seen her in. He's a very charming character. So is Superman too. Don't get me wrong, but like um I don't know, sometimes Supergirl just feels a little more relatable, um, opposed to like Superman's almost unwavering positivity, which is good. But like it's almost very, um, it's very one sided on that part. But moving on, I'm gonna have a quick ad here for my book. So recently I came out with a book called Princess Flora. Um, it's a magical girl inspired story that's set in New Jersey, Hamilton primarily. It is inspired by the likes of like Sailor Moon in terms of story and Pretty Cure, in terms of action and slice of life. Description: just after starting her second year of high school, Emily Johnson gets hit with the biggest reveal of her life. She's a fairy, well, half fairy. Her mom admits Emily inherited her fairy traits from her father, who, yes, is actually a fairy. As dealing with, as well as dealing with, I don't know how I read that wrong, as well as dealing with normal teenage problems. Wasn't hard enough. Emily is soon haunted, hunted for her fairy genes. Striving to be a normal teen is no longer an option for her. So check that out. I'm gonna put it on screen, of course. Um, and yeah, I'm just gonna show you the book real quick. This is my book. But let's move on to spoilers, which I don't think I'm gonna have it be that long, but we'll see where it goes. Um, I have my notes, so you know, I mentioned this before, and when it came to traveling from planet to planet, it felt very similar. Um, and you know, I don't mind a good prehistoric desert setting for different, cosmic journeys, and then having like the alternative, like it being a futuristic sci-fi setting. But it felt a little too similar across the board. So I think that was just kind of a minor issue for me. Um, and another minor issue for me. And this is the spoilers is where I'm really going to compare the comic. Not saying the comic, this adaptation had to be exactly like comic, but like since they literally advertised this as being based off, if not inspired, but I remember seeing based off, so I'm gonna say based off of the Women of Tomorrow. Also, you might notice this is the uh one of the newest additions for the story. It's the Barnes and Noble collector's edition. If you know, you know. Um, I when I originally read the story, a little bit back, I forget exactly when this came out. It's been a minute. But when I read this story and I was recommended this, yeah, I was just in awe. I It was amazing. And I had read this online, so I wanted to get this finally physically, especially with this movie coming out. I was like, I just felt obligated to do that. So, I have that now, and it's pretty cool. That being said, back to what I was talking about, like the minor alterations they had with the designs and style of certain characters and settings, especially with Ruth. Um, I just didn't like the changes. Like, I really liked her more like fantasy farm girl style she had with a little bit of nobility mixed in. Um, opposed to like how the movie they gave her a very like mountain climber looking design, which I guess for like a journey is fine. You want to have more layers than wearing and what they have in the comic, at least in the early parts of the comic. She wears like a skirt and like a sleeveless top. So like it makes sense. Like, it makes sense that like I they don't say it, it just kind of happens, but like I assume it in between them traveling, Car was like, I think you're gonna need some pants. Even though, funny enough, she's wearing a skirt. But I'm pretty sure she was like, "You need some pants. It's gonna get cold in this area." Um, but yeah, like it was stuff like that that I didn't care for. Like in the comic, she also has like this like alien looking crown thing. Um, and it kind of just screams, that she is from a planet that's not very like ours. I mean, it just looks like I don't think I've really seen. I'll probably try to put it on screen, but I've never really seen. I may have the comic next to me, so maybe I can show it. But yeah, it just kind of screams like, she's not a normal girl. God, so many pages where she has. Hold on. All right, here it is. Hopefully it can show on screen. Big old trying to work the camera here. Trying to work the camera here. Um, yeah, you can kind of see it. The little headpiece. I'll probably just put it on the screen to be honest with you. But yeah, it's just like stuff like that. I was like, I feel like costume design wise could have been a little cooler. Um, could have gave this a little more spice to this movie, which is really funny enough. Um, Something that like I didn't mind this one change in terms of design. It was with Krem. He got an alteration with his design where it looked a little more punk. He had like these beads on his head, type of like Hellraiser. Yeah, it just was like it. I was like it for making him look a little hateable. I think I was fine. Like in the original, like he had like more primal design, kind of just like how Ruth was. He wore no shirt and he just had like this kind of like not tunic, but like I guess kilt looking thing. And yeah, it's all fine and dandy. He had orange hair as well, which man, these orange haired folks begin completely the end of the shaft sometimes. Like, oh my gosh, like I feel like they always get replaced. I've seen sometimes it really is becoming a repetitive thing with these portrayals sometimes. But yeah, the I don't mind that alteration with his design. I feel like it was cool. They also gave him more like sci-fi um bounty hunter stuff instead of like a bow and arrow that he has in the comic, which I think is fine. I think it kind of unifies the universe a little more, but also kind of takes away the like on Ruth's planet, which I forget the name of right now. Um, her planet was a very prehistoric almost, and it seemed like at least on her part they mentioned their cities in her planet on her planet, so probably is some people that are a little more high tech, but at least for like some of the hunters and the normal folks that we see when we're on our planet, they all kind of look. They have like a very unified, not very um, you know, techie look. They all look very low tech, primal. I'll say again. So yeah, it kind of like there's a moment in the comic where she first sees Kara's ship and she's just baffled by it. Um and it's kind of implied by dialogue and also her facial expression that like she's never seen a ship on her planet. And maybe this could be just age, maybe other people have seen ships, but they also mentioned that Krem didn't know where he was going. He was just trying to get away when he first shot Kara um and Crypto. Um and I think I do like that alteration because it is cool that we see Kara's strength a lot in the comic. I feel like that's really, really cool. She almost feels, you know, invincible like she should be a lot of the time. But I feel like they kind of flip that on its head in the film where there is more moments where she's more vulnerable instead of invincible. Um so I think that's interesting. Or I mean, she still has that vibe where like, I'm the strongest being in the universe. Like I can beat you up, like in the beginning, where she fights the guy that took Ruth's sword. She took him down, not with no effort, but with a gravitas that like, showed off that like, yeah, if I did have my powers, you would lose. Even if I didn't have my powers, you would still lose. Like she was confident enough to face up against anyone throughout the movie. And I feel like that still was something that was portrayed from the comic, where she's always just ready to box someone. No matter if she knows she won't have the most advantage over them. Um, but yeah, a lot of the designs felt a little generic to me, with some kind of popping out, but some also just like feeling like I mean, I feel like there's probably a reason for that. Supergirl having the most colors in the film, ironically, um, with her only wearing it near the end. Um, like I feel like there's probably a reason why they did that. Maybe it was expense. Maybe it was because um, it just probably didn't work for some of them in the movie, or whatever the director wanted to do, because they definitely want more sci-fi with a lot of the characters, especially when they went off planet, um, instead of going a little, you know, less technology based. Um, and yeah, like the story changes to like I don't think I mind it. I was fine with the simplification of certain storylines, but with that simplification, it kind of just feels kind of, you know, empty on some parts of the movie. It doesn't really feel. It just feels like, there's obviously one objective: to find Krem, take him down, possibly get revenge. Like I think that's like very, very, very much the main motivation of the film, on top of what they added, with Krem kidnapping um brides, and also kind of implies like trafficking, not just women but also kids, to become brides for his brigade of only men. So I mean, yeah, it's some changes that I feel like it's fine, but I also like I like the interpersonal relationships, and it felt more grounded, um in the original story. Funny enough, um for it being so supernatural and superhero-y, which isn't a word, but whatever. So yeah. Um yeah, I feel like some people also too, I mentioned before Ruth, she's a bit chatty. I know it might not always work for everyone, but I didn't mind her chattiness, so I feel like that was fine for me. And when it comes to taste, the humor in this movie is hit or miss. I don't really know what the views were for this movie. I'll watch it after, but like I could definitely see some people being like, "Oh, this is Marvel humor." Which I'll be honest, I don't mind Marvel humor. Sometimes it works for me. Like I'll get a good not cackle or even a chuckle, but it'll at least get like a like out of me, like that type of reaction. So yeah, I was gonna give anything else, like maybe I wish they showed Ruth fight a little more. Like she does have some moments, like when she escapes the jail cell after getting captured. Um, she almost fights Krem. There's moments where like it's showing that like she is obviously willing to get revenge and fight to the death. Um, but just in the comic, they kind of made her more competent, and I feel like there's reasons why, because they changed like her having six brothers to one brother who dies in like the first scene he's in, from Krem. Um and yeah, like I feel like there could have been more competency with her nature. I wish they gave her some type of warrior vibe. They kind of imply that a little bit. It's like a one short scene. It's barely even a scene, I would call it. It's like 1 second. Um and of her having a flashback of her parents, and it looks like she's in some kind of training garb. But I could be wrong. And if I do ever rewatch this movie, I'll try to note that for my own self. But yeah, like her having six brothers, it makes sense that she can fight, and it's also implied in the comment that she has she had moments where she watched her brothers and father fight, um, and became kind of sufficient herself. And I kind of just wish they showed that a little more instead of having Car basically win all her fights. Um, I do like the lesson that like Car is like, I don't want you to kill them, but I also do like the lesson of her learning it herself instead of someone else telling her. But I mean, with her being young, it's just fine. And in the comic, she's a lot more mature, I'd say. Still naive, but a lot more mature. And by the end of the comic, she realizes herself that like, Krem isn't worth killing. Um, and she has more to live for instead of killing a man for, another dead man. So, yeah. So I still think this this movie emphasized the whole themes of it all. And yeah, just closing thoughts. This movie was good. It's flawed in depth of the world we traveled through. And the timing and balancing of certain fights and lighting was not too good. But, besides all those, I feel like it excels in its message and entertainment value. So, I would recommend this movie. I would say go see it. And yeah, 7 out of 10. Uh check out my check out my new book and have a blessed day and bye-bye.